Hey guys, welcome back to MFO. Thanks for tuning in to another episode and Happy New Year. Today is the 1st of January on 2026. And the topic that I want to talk about today is making New Year's resolutions, but specifically how to make New Year's resolutions that relate to being safe in your boat. And I think that this is a responsibility, especially after last year on Smith Lake and some of the things that happened, that we need to look at and be better at in 2026. Now, it's one thing to give a lot of, lip service to it and talk about it, but I've been seriously thinking about this topic, and I want to share some personal insights that I have and some specific things that I'm thinking of when it relates to safety and boating safety and what I'm going to be doing next year. And I got to be honest, it's kind of putting me out on a limb here in that I need to be an example now. People are going to be looking if I'm going to post this kind of stuff on here. So I'd like to talk more about that. I really ask that you pay attention to this because I think this can be really important. Stick around, guys. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher. So I'm talking about the idea of making a resolution, and I'm talking about the whole issue of boater safety. To be honest, accidents are always going to happen, and it's not. I'm not going to get into a debate about Flint Davis accident or whatever. What I am going to say is this, guys. I look at that and go, I know that there have been times when I've driven a boat and I've looked over at a guy catching a fish, or looked at my waypoint, or, oh my God, there's a pretty girl on a dock, or whatever it is. I'm not going to lie to you and say that that's never happened. And for me to go into 2026 and say, hey, I'm gonna try and make sure that I drive my boat and not be distracted when I drive the boat. I can do that, and I can do it with all good intentions. And then all of a sudden, an eagle's flying and I'm looking at an eagle. There's got to be a way that when that's why it's a distraction, because you're doing one thing, you're focusing on driving down the lake, and something catches your attention. That's what it's called distracted driving, because that's what happens. And so you have to recognize, and this is what's happened, guys, is that I'm taking a conversation that I had with Megan. Megan doesn't like it when I'm driving my car and my phone rings and I look to see who texted me. And I get it. I shouldn't be doing that. I made a promise to Megan. I'll try and not drive as distracted when I'm driving the car with regards to the cell phone. That's not enough for me to stop doing it. When the bell rings, when the ding, when it tells me, I go down and look. What it is the act of actually touching my phone. I've gotten that to the point where that, to me, says, hey, touching that phone, you said you weren't going to do that. And I put it down. I reach for it, but I don't stay on it and look at it. I don't even look. The minute I'm picking it up, that is the cue to me to change my behavior. And so what I'm saying is, guys, it's not enough to resolve to say, hey, I'm going to be a less distracted boat driver in 2026. What you need to do, distractions happen. That's why these things occur. We need to recognize the next time you look over at a guy catching a fish, the next time you look down at your graphs, or you're looking over at the girls in the pontoon boat, or whatever it is. Hey, I'm being distracted. I need to focus back on what I'm doing. Where am I? Constantly paying attention. Swimmers in the water, kayaks in the water, other boats in the water, things like that. We have to recognize when we're being distracted and recognize it at the moment that we're being distracted. It's not enough to just make a resolution. It literally takes work and practice at doing that. Maybe I'm just late to the dance here and I'm just figuring it out, and all of you guys recognize that already. But if you haven't, please work with me, in terms of, I'm going to work on myself, you work on yourself in terms of reducing that distracted driving in the boat. I think that's for sure, in my opinion, that was the major cause of what happened last year. And that's the part I can look at somebody and say, oh, you made a bad decision or whatever. But in that situation, I look and go, it could have just as easily been me. And I don't ever want that to be me. Now, there are two other things that I thought about in context of this topic and boater safety that I would also recommend. And I did a video about this last year, but the leash, that's another example of a boater safety thing that you don't know. You have no control. You can't drive down the lake and say, hey, I'm not going to hit a stump or a piece of floating debris. And if that motor flops up and hurts somebody, it's all over, and it happens like that. If you don't run the leash on your big motor, please, I highly recommend getting the leash and putting that on. That's another thing that you can do, that once you do it, you're okay. If you don't do it, you never know whether something's going to happen the next time you go out on your boat. So the second step is run that leash, guys. It makes a lot of sense. And then finally, having taken the boater safety course last year, I will say that it makes me feel more comfortable. Admittedly, I probably forgot half the things that I learned, and I probably should take the boater safety course again as a refresher. Take our videos that we do as refreshers and let them help you. We put out a bunch of boater safety videos over the last year. Do that. Take the boater safety course. Do whatever you can to continue to refresh your memory about boater safety topics. Those are my 3 tips on making your resolution to boat more safely in 2026. I think it's good for you. I think it's good for our sport and for everybody who's out on the lakes. Basically, it's us taking responsibility as professional anglers that we need to be as safe as possible. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I do wish you a very happy new year, and we will see you again tomorrow on another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.